everybody. Welcome back to the latest episode of the GSD Podcast. We got a very unique and special episode for you this week. Our guest for this week, obviously we're on the road at the Oklahoma History Center, is Director Trait Thompson. Trait, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to have you guys here. Welcome to the Oklahoma History Center, the home of the Oklahoma Historical Society. And just a little bit about our agency. We are an appropriated state agency. Our annual budget's about $19 million. We were formed in 1893 by the Oklahoma Territorial Press Association.
Does that make you the oldest agency?
Well, we didn't become an agency for several years after that.
Oldest
it was
a
technicality.
Yeah,
it was a private group, but yes,
that's one of Trait's technicalities. Right?
We are pre-statehood here at the Oklahoma
awesome.
Historical Society. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and share Oklahoma's history. And we do that by collecting documents and archives that the citizens of Oklahoma can access in their research. We have collections, 3D items that are part of all of our museum displays and things that we hold because they're important to Oklahoma's history. We have our State Historic Preservation Office that manages the historic tax credits and the National Register of Historic Places program. We have over 3.1 million pages of newspaper digitized, over 10 million photos in our collection, and we have, of course, this is our flagship building here, the Oklahoma History Center, where you can come and learn all about the history of our state.
Right across the street from the Capitol.
Right across the street.
State government.
My predecessor, Dr. Blackburn, used to like to say that the Capitol was artifact #1 in Oklahoma's historic collections here, and that's why it's focal. It has a focal point right here.
Well, if we're bringing that up, we need to say that Trait Thompson was, one of our own just a short while ago, and we are so proud of everything that you've done recently in this role. And everyone knows you from the Capitol Restoration Project, so history and preserving most of what we know as Oklahomans has really been close to your heart.
Well, I had the pleasure of working for OMES for 6.5 years. It was one of the honors of my lifetime to manage the restoration of the state capitol. That project is going to be finishing up in the next few months, and I'm just thrilled with how far that building has come from where we started, because it was very terrible when we started, but now it's beautiful. And
no one would say that's an understatement either.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've talked a lot about what's going on right now just across the street, but let's go take a look at some cool stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, crew. Let's go.
All right, we're here in the document archives, and we've got some really cool stuff for you guys to look at. Everything from a historical Bible to an unfinished copy of the Constitution. We've got a letter from Kate Bernard, and down here,
I'm excited about this.
A letter from President Abraham Lincoln.
Now, yeah, just to clarify, so this is a letter written in 1837 when Lincoln was a lawyer in Springfield, Missouri. Or, I'm sorry, Springfield, Illinois. And so this is the actual letter. It's signed by Lincoln. It came to us, people might wonder, well, why in the world do you have a copy of a letter from Lincoln? This is Oklahoma. Well, it was in the collections of an Oklahoman, and they donated it to the Oklahoma Historical Society, so that's why we happen to have it, which we're thrilled about, because how many things from Lincoln are floating around out there.
So this is pre him being president.
Pre him being president.
That's amazing.
That's right.
That
exactly.
is incredible.
If you see the date up at the top, it's October of 1837.
Wow. And it's so well preserved.
Yeah, it really is. From back in the paper is browned a little bit, but it's still very legible. And we have it. One thing I should mention about this room that we're in, this room was built for the right kind of climate control, the right kind of temperature and humidity protections, so that all the documents in this room are protected. And one of the interesting things is this isn't just stuff that is super secret stuff that only people get to see if they have super secret access. All of this material in this room is available for people to use in their research, and people can look at these documents. They can handle these documents, of course, under supervision.
Did you know that?
I had no
idea.
I
had no idea.
This is what a service we perform for the citizens of Oklahoma.
That is awesome.
As they're doing their historic research, they can access all of the things that you see here. Right behind me are all the records for the Dawes Commission. And in fact, this building that we're in right now, so the Oklahoma History Center, we are an affiliate with the Smithsonian Institution.
Right.
We are accredited by the American Museums Association, and we are an affiliate of the National Archives.
So most Oklahomans would think like, okay, great, that's awesome, but you're saying like, let's get engaged. Like there's the opportunity to use this material. It's not just here to look
That's
at,
right.
but actually like grow your knowledge.
That's right.
That is
We
amazing.
are the only, this facility is the only facility in the entire world that is affiliated with all three of those institutions.
That is incredible.
Right
and
That's
this
here in
is
amazing.
Oklahoma.
here in Oklahoma.
That is awesome.
Speaking of history, so tell me about these signatures.
Yeah. So what you're looking at here, you can see a copy of the Oklahoma Constitution as it was being drafted, and you can see strike through here. You have to remember that this was a work in progress like any work in progress. And what you can see over here is signatures of the delegates to the Constitution. I'm sorry, the delegates to the Constitutional Convention.
Right.
So once again, this is Oklahoma history right here in your face that you can touch and handle, and it's
awesome.
pretty exciting.
What's next on our list?
Well, this is one of a really interesting piece of Oklahoma history. This is Charles Haskell's Bible. For those of you who might not know, Charles Haskell was the first governor of the state of Oklahoma. He was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And so we can turn here, and we have the page of the Bible that he put his hand on when he was sworn in 1907 as the very first governor of Oklahoma.
Wow. Can you make out what it says there?
It says, the Bible was opened on this page when oath of office was administered, Governor C.N. Haskell, November the 16th, 1907. And then it's also signed, I'm sorry, I can't make out the other signatures, but it's signed by a couple other folks. So,
But this is the Bible he put his hand on during the first ever inauguration of the state of Oklahoma.
so
That is amazing.
November 16th was statehood day. This is the very first statehood day in state history.
I've heard of the family Bible, but this is the Oklahoma Bible.
That's right. That's the one right there.
And then this is a great piece of history as well. This is Kate Bernard's diary. Now, Kate Bernard, if you're not familiar, the very first statewide elected official in the entire country who was female was Kate Bernard. So she was elected the Commissioner of Charities and Corrections as the first female to hold statewide office in the entire country, but also in Oklahoma. Yes, that's right. So, so this is her diary. For those that may not be aware, Kate Bernard was a crusader for social justice, for people, for things like child labor. She was also for prison reform. In fact, one of the things that she's famous for is Oklahoma outsourced its prisoners to Kansas when we didn't have a prison and they were suffering terrible treatment. So she brought them back to Oklahoma, and she tried to ensure that they got humane treatment here. She crusaded for things that, wages for people, proper wages, and so she was one of our very first people who had that as a priority.
That is amazing. What year would that have been?
This is 1907.
1907.
Yeah,
Wow.
so she was.
Still has a building that bears her name right here in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
You don't
Amazing.
think about the
You don't
gravity
even
of
think about
that
it.
Yeah.
until you see items like this.
Kate Bernard is probably one of my favorite people, and in fact, she was one of the people who were crusading for the rights of Indian children. And when that was at the time, so we have Killers of the Flower Moon being filmed in Oklahoma right now. That story is all about people that tried to steal the head rights of the Osage. Well, she was an advocate for the Indian children getting their head rights and having their natural rights. And she got on the wrong side of some very powerful people in Oklahoma. So the legislature cut her budget. They pretty much eliminated her from her position.
You're telling me they did that stuff back then too?
That
would never happen. Yeah.
And she actually died poor and destitute later, about 25 years after this. So
But an amazing artifact. That is incredible.
But you
And
look
what
at
an
the
impact on
testament,
Oklahoma.
yeah, the
Like, that's
testament
awesome.
of her life.
Yeah.
Truly, you don't think she'd probably changed anything, hearing how committed she was.
Right.
So it's a life not lived in vain.
and her statue's in the Capitol. So
awesome.
the statue of the lady sitting on the bench is Kate Bernard in the state capitol.
Well, I
That's
know
amazing.
this is not all you have to show us, and thank you so far. But let's take a peek at what you got next.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We are down in the basement of the History Center and down in the, what's this room called again, Trey?
Well, this is the collections room.
The collections room.
And we
probably
really,
somewhere you've never seen before, which is amazing.
Yeah, this is kind of VIP access. This is
VIPs, right?
Yeah. In fact, I don't even have a key to this area.
What?
Because we have so much incredible pieces of Oklahoma history that there are only about 3 people in the entire organization that have a key to this. So because we really want to make sure if something goes missing, I don't want to get blamed for it.
That's fair. That's 100% fair.
Yeah, exactly.
I get pretty excited about all the history.
So this is, we have many thousands of square feet down here, and you can see we have shelving for all kinds of things. And this really is, it kind of reminds me of the Indiana Jones warehouse that you see at the end of the movie, right? Because we've got a little bit of everything. Just where we're standing right now, we have the ship's wheel from the USS Oklahoma that was bombed during Pearl Harbor. And then the ship later sank as it was being dragged back to the mainland. Up on this shelf over here, we have an iron lung, which can you imagine spending a significant part of your life in this machine?
I associate that more with polio too, after what we saw out of the pandemic. So is that like around that era?
Yeah, so this would have been 1940s, 1950s, you know, out in that time frame. And then back here, we have some pieces from the steamboat Heroine. Now, the steamboat Heroine sunk in the Red River in 1838 as it was coming down to provision Fort Towson in southeastern Oklahoma. And several years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, as the river kind of changed courses, it revealed some of the pieces of the steamboat. So the Historical Society teamed up with the Nautical Archaeology Department at Texas A&M University, and they did an excavation and were able to bring up many of the pieces here. And so we have pieces down here, but we also have a big exhibit upstairs in the galleries that people can come see pieces of the steamboat Heroine and learn more about the steamboat.
You've got way more stuff down here. What else do we have?
Oh yeah, if you want to come on down, we've got a few other items. This is one of my favorite items too. Now this is a voting machine. And this looks nothing like today you would go in and slip your piece of paper into the machine. This was a voting machine that had all the levers on it, and it still has the candidates. So if you're going to vote for David Boren or Jim Inhofe, for Lieutenant Governor, you would vote for George Nye or Ralph Drews. This is going to go on display in the new State Capitol Museum.
I was going to ask you about that. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about the new museum coming to the Capitol, because it's not there yet.
Yes.
Right? Okay, gotcha.
It's currently being constructed. On the ground floor of the State Capitol will be the new State Capitol Museum. It's going to tell the story of the State Capitol, but it's also going to educate people on the political process and on how the legislature works.
Very much interactive. Correct?
Yes,
that is awesome.
It will be interactive. We'll have digital displays that people can work with. Awesome. And also items like this from our collections will be coming over there to talk about how people participate in the political process.
So what's the timeline on the new museum?
That museum will be open in February of 2022.
Gotcha. Okay, so coming up really quick.
Yes.
That is awesome. Okay, what else we got down here?
Well, as we walk along here, you know, we've got behind us right here. This is actually not old. This used to be our cafe in the History Center. But this is old. So this is Lee Fish Radio Service. He bought this. This was his repair truck for radio. He later converted it to be his repair truck for television when television started coming into being in the 40s and 50s. And then later he used it for his family to make cross-country trips. So,
that is awesome.
And then as we work our way, you know, obviously we could do this for a long time. We've got saddles. Over here we got movie star Tom Mix's saddle. Tom Mix was a silent movie star.
Absolutely.
We've got an old theater projector from a theater here in Oklahoma City. So literally almost anything you can think of that has to do with Oklahoma history that's a tangible thing.
Yes.
It probably has a representation down here.
I got to ask, what do we have here? Is this something special?
Yeah, so this is an old car, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't know all the ins and outs of the details of it, but this was on display in the old building. The current judicial building used to be the History Center.
Gotcha.
And so Dan Provo likes to talk about knowing that this car comes apart in about 67 pieces because they had to take it apart to get it in and out of the building.
So he knows how many it took to take it apart and get it back in.
Exactly.
That is hilarious.
Exactly.
Right. Anything else you want to show us down here, Trey? There's so much down here. There's no way we could cover everything.
We could be down here for hours.
Yeah, for real.
But once again, this is this room is filled with Oklahoma history,
That's
and
awesome.
we're so thrilled to be the guardians of it at the Oklahoma Historical Society.
Love it. Well, I think you got one other place to show us. Is that right?
We want to go upstairs and see the Oklahomans in Space gallery. That's one of our exhibit galleries.
Which is something Oklahoma should be very proud of, because we have some of the most, one of the most state quantity of astronauts. Is that correct?
More astronauts have come from Oklahoma than from any other state.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right. Well, guys, let's go check that out. We'll be right back.
Welcome to space. Trait, what do we have here? Is this the Apollo capsule?
This is an Apollo space capsule that was part of the Skylab program that was flown in 1973, 1974. So this one's a little bit different than the lunar ones because this one didn't go to the moon. This was part of basically the first space station, which was Skylab. And we worked with the Smithsonian for about 10 years to be able to bring this here and put it on long-term loan at the Oklahoma History Center. So now, even though that this wasn't like the Apollo 11 or Apollo 13, it's very, very similar to it, and people can look and see what it was like to be in one of these capsules. They can see the size of it. They're not that big.
Tight squeeze.
Yeah, very tight squeeze in here. So most astronauts were not very tall people. In fact, General Stafford at 6 feet tall was one of the taller astronauts, and they actually had to make modifications into the Apollo capsule so that he could fly in this thing. But this is a very rare piece of Americana space history here. And there are only about 35 space-flown capsules in the entire world. And so the fact that we have one here in Oklahoma, actually we have two in Oklahoma. We have the one here, and we have a Gemini space capsule that's at the Stafford Museum in Weatherford. So it's very rare for there to be two in one state, and we have that. And so this is a focal point of our new Oklahomans in Space exhibit, and where we're highlighting all of the Oklahomans who have participated in the space program, all of the accomplishments of the space program. Over to my right, we have a console from Mission Control in Houston, where people can see, the computer screens that they had. They can see, how they would have gone about, Mission Control in Houston would have gone about doing their jobs. We have various digital displays all throughout the exhibit where people can learn more about space and how the space program worked. But this is an exhibit that just opened in November of 2020. It's going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to add new things to it. And we, as I mentioned before, more Oklahomans have participated in the space program than we've had people from any other state. So we have a robust history with space. When you think about General Tom Stafford, you think about someone, his mother came to Oklahoma in a covered wagon, and she lived to see her son flying through space in a space capsule, which is just incredible.
And just like truly out of this world, that you have something like space in the same building as Oklahoma history. I mean, our history is much different than this on paper. When you think about the land run or any other really big piece of what we think of as Oklahoma history.
Yeah, I think Oklahomans really need to expand their view about what Oklahoma history is, because I think we tend to think, of course, just in the gallery just to the south of us, talks about the Native American experience and the 5 tribes and all of those kinds of things. And then we talk about, of course, we talk about the land run, but it's also business, it's entertainment. Anything that you can think of really that has made Oklahomans who we are is part of our historic experience, and it's part of what you can learn about when you come to the Oklahoma History Center.
It's great. I want to check out some more stuff just right around the corner. What else do we have here?
Yeah, so if we look over here, we can see flight suits from various Oklahomans who have participated in the space program. The one that we have right over here is Tom Stafford's flight suit from one of his missions, and then we have various other flight suits as well. So we have Fred Hayes, who wasn't born in Oklahoma, but he interacted with Oklahoma. He was here in the military. We have John Harrington's flight suit, and John Harrington, of course, was in the astronaut corps and did training on T-38 jets. over here we have moon rocks. So from different missions, we have moon rocks that were brought back to Oklahoma from the moon.
And I can't buy those at the gift shop, right?
No, you can't buy moon rocks at the gift shop. In fact, they're exceedingly rare, of course, because you can only get them at the moon. But we have moon rocks that were designated for Oklahoma from the missions to the moon. And so all kind of neat things. You can learn how astronauts sleep. Because obviously you can't sleep in a normal way because of the way that lack of gravity. You can learn how astronauts eat when they're up in space, and so all kind of fun and interesting facts you can learn here as you come. And then you can also learn about the people. And one of my favorite people to talk about is Shannon Lucid. Shannon Lucid was a female astronaut from Oklahoma, has more hours in space than any other female in the space program. And she was born overseas to missionary parents in China, but she attended school in Bethany, and then she became a researcher at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, went into the space program, flew on more missions than any other female in the space program. So she's just one example of the incredible Oklahomans who have contributed to the National Space Program.
Another inspiring story coming out of the Oklahoma History Center. It's been so great to be able to hear so much of our Oklahoma history, and I truly appreciate learning about Shannon, but Earth to Caden, we're gonna kick it back to you.
All right, so we're here at the end of our trip over at the Oklahoma History Center. Trait, thank you so much for just showing us around. You have so many amazing things here that people need to come check out.
Yeah, we'd love for everybody to come over. We're fully open again and accepting visitors, and come spend as much time as you want over here.
Absolutely. So many cool things to see, everything from stuff from just our basic Oklahoma history, everything from space. Just really got to encourage more people to come out and check this out because it's incredible. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the behind the scenes look and all the tours that we've been able to check out here at the Oklahoma History Center. Thank you guys again, and be sure to check out Trait's podcast called A Very Okay Podcast. Is that
Very
right?
Okay Podcast. It's our history podcast, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Love it. Okay, well, be sure to check that out. It's on all the platforms where you listen to podcasts, where you listen to our podcast. But Trait, thank you so much again for having us here.
Thank you, Trait.
It's been great. Always good to see my OMES colleagues.
That's right, absolutely. Guys, thanks again, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of the GSD Podcast. See you guys.